Administrative Officer and Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation Service Administrative Officer. I'm a Vietnam vet, and a couple of years ago, several of us were talking, and we decided that we would like to have once a quarter a program to call attention for several quarters about the exploits and the service of our World War II generation for the battles and the campaigns, etc., and experiences that they have undergone. This is our 5th program. We had a couple of former POWs, and then we had a couple of people from Pearl Harbor attack, a couple of people from the Iwo Jima campaign, and then 3 participants in D-Day last June. Right after we scheduled the D-Day, Richard Reno came to me and says, "You know, Alan, we had something going on down in Italy about 9 months before D-Day that was pretty important also, and would you consider having a program on that?" And he said, "It's called the First Front." I said, "Well, I know about it." I said, "I think that's a great program." So, of course, we began working a few months ago to have this program today. Our next program will be in mid-December, and will be on Battle of the Bulge, tentatively. The next program after that in the spring will tentatively be on the World War II submariner service and what they did, the submariners, I guess. And then next June, we may take a different approach relative to D-Day, perhaps the air war and the logistical support of what it took to make D-Day happen for the people that hit the beaches. So today, of course, we have 3 speakers. Before we get started, I'd like to have Mr. Cox come up and welcome you all on behalf of Mr. Harper, who's not here today. Mr. Bill Cox is our Associate Director.
Good afternoon. I'd just like to welcome you to this special program. As Alan said, this is our 5th one, and you know, at VA North Texas, we have a lot of outstanding programs, but this one's unique in that this is an opportunity where the patients and the veterans that we treat actually share firsthand their experiences. It's really a special program to me because being a military brat, my dad served 3 times in combat. And many times he could not relate or speak to me about his experiences, at least initially. And it was many years later, after he retired, that I noticed he started sharing his experiences with my son, his grandson. So I think it's wonderful, it's educational, and you don't know how much I really appreciate you all sharing. I want to welcome our guests. They're coming from different locations throughout Texas, and just say how much we appreciate you, and especially our speakers today, how much we appreciate what you did. Also want to thank Alan. He's been the catalyst behind this program, and it's an outstanding program and one that we look forward to in the future. So again, welcome, and thank you so much.
I'd like to begin with the gentleman that initiated my interest in this specific topic, is Richard Reno. Richard, would you come forward just a couple of feet? And Richard's going to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able to stand, please do. And Richard will lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Let me get this to you. I realize you don't have something to say. You're welcome.
Okay. Right hand salute. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all. 2.
Let me give you all a little bit of an historical perspective on what we're going to talk about today. By summer of 1943, we had been victorious in Africa against the Germans, and we decided for right or wrong purposes, and I think some of these people will tell you that they don't think it was the right reason to be going into Italy, but we had been successful in Sicily. We decided to go into the mainland of Italy, and the 36th Infantry Division, which was a Texas National Guard division that had been federalized in 1940, was the spearhead and was involved with all of these different operations in Italy. So we're very proud of it having been a Texas National Guard unit. And of course, many of the people here are Texas natives. and were involved with that unit when it was federalized. So that's the story that we're going to be hearing, the 36th, plus our third speaker was an Army nurse at Anzio, and she will speak about those experiences there at an Army hospital on the battlefield at the Anzio beachhead. So as our people went forward at Salerno, and the anniversary of Salerno invasion is September 9th, 2 days from now, 1943. This was called the First Front, and then our troops began going up the coast, and it was very heavy fighting. They'll be able to tell you the details of it, but just strategically, it was basically a platoon and company level type of fighting. Infantry type of fighting, because you don't have open plains there to do tank work, okay? So it was mainly infantry type of fighting all the way up through there. And, kind of a milestone was June 5th, 1944, the day before D-Day, these people captured Rome. And so it's very interesting and very historical. We're delighted and honored to have these three people with us today. Our first speaker is from Waco. He's Garland D. Lamar, and he, as a Texan, was in the unit of the 36th, and he's going to tell you about his experiences there until he was wounded and came back to the United States after being wounded in action there. So Garland, the floor is yours for 6 to 8 minutes.
How many?
6 to 8 minutes, and I will come up and tap you on the shoulder. Okay.
Thank you, sir, and good morning, everybody. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. I feel honored to be sitting at this head table. There are those of you seated out there that probably deserve to be up here maybe more than I do. I see one of my classmates of the class of 40, Gordon, and his lovely lady are here, and Gordon did kind of what I did in 1940. We graduated from high school and then went to join the National Guard. And people say, well, you won't do that for? You could go to war and get killed. Well, we thought that's the thing to do. If your country called, you're supposed to go. So we went down and did this thing. And we were in the National Guard when the war started and everything, and we were federalized in the federal service, but we were in the Guard prior to that time. I'd like to say that when I was a youngster growing up, I don't think I ever played soldier. And when we got to Salerno, I wasn't playing in. But we played in between, but it was a different deal. But I'd like to say that and pay tribute before we go another step further to those brave men and women, mostly the men at that particular time, who lost their lives in that invasion. It was kind of a screwed up deal, as you probably read in history. The book is still out on whether or not the invasion and capturing of Italy was a must or not. But when the president orders us to go, being good American citizens, we went and we did our duty, and we came out of the war later with one of the best records, I guess, of any unit in any war. And I'll say that and take my hat off to all the P-Patchers. I'm glad to be one of you. We landed that morning. I could tell you some funny story, but this is not funny today. The 36th Division was made up of guys from the hometown. Some of you that don't know this, those of you that do. Like Brother Gold was from Temple and had D Company. I was in Waco. We had headquarters, K, we had M Company, we had a howitzer company, and even had a band. And then the regimental staff was in Waco. So this was the way the 36th Division was composed, and out of the National Guard units. They have a real good history of things. The day we landed at Salerno, I can tell you this. If you ever hear anybody that was in combat and he comes back and he tells you he wasn't scared, you send him to me. I've got two things I can say to him. You're either a damn liar or you wasn't there. It's that simple. And I think all of us agree with that. And after you get that first one, kind of like a football player, after you get that first hit and after you get on the beach and that missed you, well, then you get a little bit better. It don't ever get better, but it does. We did land. There were some odds that were insurmountable, and I stayed on the ship until about 9 o'clock. There's a guy named Pat Patterson. He was up in the radio shack, but we never did. I was a radio operator. My MOS was a 177. But they landed early that morning. The first troop started around 4, I think, wasn't it, Gordon? He was there. But anyhow, I landed in that afternoon, and that night it was complete chaos. And by the time I got to the CP, what was called a CP, General Martin, he was a colonel in, I had guys from airborne divisions and from about 12 or 14 other units. There's about 17 of us, and they were all lost. They were scattered. like a bunch of geese. A lot of people think it's all organized and synchronized. It ain't. But we did do our duty, and we did go. We pushed them back, and then we pulled back and went to a little town called PM&R right out in the suburbs of Naples. And that harbor was a mess. I couldn't describe it, wouldn't even attempt to. We stayed there a while, and then we went back up November the 14th. Little town McDonough was the big thing on the map there, and relieved the 3rd Division. And that was the 14th, and I caught some shrapnel on the 17th. And I was very fortunate. I was shot up pretty good, but it didn't hit anything real live. And some white phosphorus and some lead, and shell fragments, they call it. But I did get back, and I am grateful to be here. I can't think of any place or any group I would have rather been with than the guys that I was raised up with and shot marbles with. I will tell you this, the same shell that hit me killed a kid that I was raised up with. He was talking on the switchboard and had the little earpiece, and the shrapnel hit on his temple, and the blood never ran off his cheek, but his head went down and he was dead. It's like a lobotomy that went bad. And of course, I think about that once in a while, but I go back into those bad things. I don't stay, I get back out. I'm smarter than that. And so far, I've managed to stay out of the loony bin out at the VA hospital in Waco by not getting too carried away with the things that have happened, because we can't change them. And if any of you have any questions after we get through, I'm going to cut some of my time off so Brother Gold can tell you. He's got about 8 pages here. It's all good stuff. And he's a politician, so he's handled his mic a lot better than I do. And so I'm going to say thank you for hearing what I had to say. And if any of you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to try to answer them. And I just pray to God that we can get this world sometime or another living in peace, where we won't have to have institutions like this to patch these young men up. And it's just because the young ones go and fight it, the old ones plot it and plan it, and we're the ones that go over there and catch it. And thank you, and God bless.
Thank you very much, Garland. And Roy is a successful politician, as a matter of fact. Roy was born in Bell County, which is Temple area, of course, and he was in this division and also landed at Salerno. A couple things about him, not necessarily related to his military, which he'll talk about, relate to the fact that he has 4 children, 4 children, right? 4 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren, right? Okay. And he had been a county commissioner in Bell County, serving from 1977 to 1991. He was awarded a Silver Star and 4 Bronze Stars, 6 campaign ribbons, and a Purple Heart. He was an officer in one of those companies that was with the 36th Infantry Division, and I'll let him tell you his story. Thank you. Welcome.
I'm like Garland. It's a privilege to be here and talk today. As many of y'all out there can do a better job than I can, even though I was a so-called politician. My oldest son spent a year in Vietnam, so he came back knowing what war was about. He's the medical group, but he fought on the line, DMZ up there, Quantre, those places in there. He saw war for a year. As you know, the Texas National Guard, created out of World War I, he came back in 23 as a D unit from Texas alone. That's the reason we have the T-patches, our signet was originally from Oklahoma, Texas. We're a civilian army. When we got federalized, went to Brownwood in 40, some of us didn't get out there to January 41. We lost some men because it's catering out to increase the war effort. We got men in from Texas, several in every company. But the time we went overseas, training in the United States in 43 on my birthday, we went to North Africa. Half the men in our company, and I bet other companies, were from out of state. They're true Texans. And I can say right now, anyone who wears his T-patch are true brothers. Well, anyway, We didn't see any action in North Africa. Patton was sent down from England to invade Sicily, but he didn't want us farmers and country boys from Texas Division with him, so we didn't get to see fighting in Sicily. We luckily lived another 3 months longer than we thought we was going to. We landed on the 9th September 1943. The earliest units of the 141st 2nd landed about 3:30 that morning, pushed inward, and the other units came in. That our regiment was in Division Reserve. Our battalion was in special thing. We supported the division headquarters. We didn't see any action at the beach. Our battalion. We moved up the coast about 70 miles to support the United States Commandos, Darby's Rangers they call them, and the British, to keep the Germans from coming down from Naples area into the Salerno area. We stayed up there and fought a week longer than the division did. The division fought down Altavella. My twin brothers captured Altavella. We lost a bunch of men in the division from Altavella. I can't say much about that except what I hear from other people. We pushed on through Naples with the British and got relieved on the 4th of October, our battalion, and joined the division in reserve, which had pulled out since we'd already pushed in through and taken above Naples. We were sitting on the hills outside of Naples during this time, is in late part of October and first part of November, before we went back into action. We saw Mount Vesuvius erupt. We thought we was going to have another Pompeii and another Paestum, but we didn't. But it was a wonderful thing to see. They got mad at us because we was fighting each other over there, I think, until Vesuvius erupted. That's one of the humorous things about it. We went back into action right after Thanksgiving, around several towns in the Leary Valley, some of the mountains you might know, and in your mind, I'd like to find my notes here, Mount Lungo, Mount Rotondo, those mountains. Then we pulled back up to Venafro, our regiment, our 143rd was, and well, the whole division did, to attack into San Pietro, Mount Shamarco, which we call it 1205. We attacked it through there. I was wounded on the 9th of December, and I missed the action through the Rapido. Thank the Lord. God was with me. I was in the hospital when your rescue boys had to fight across the Rapido. Some of them went across 2 to 3 times, got over and had to come back if they could get back. They finally pulled up a little town north of Casino and made the crossing sometime late, I believe it was late in December, late part of January, and moved on around Mount Castellone. I was in the hospital. I joined them in February when they made the bombing at the Abbey Casino. I could see those planes fly over and drop the bombs on the Abbey from where I was, back at the rear. We were pulled back then, and then rejoined and went to Anzio, went through Anzio. They had already landed there in January, 34th and 45th, and I think another division, 3rd I think it was, and married. And we went through there to relieve the 1st Armored Division on the right, around Velletri. That's another town. General Walker, who commanded our division, made a suggestion, let's filtrate through their left flank, our right flank, and the Albany Hills. We did. Nearly single file. 141st, 143rd, 142nd, 143rd behind them. 141st was still fighting in Velletri. We infiltrated one night, got so far behind the lines, the Germans, surprised, started withdrawing. That was the last part of May. We were held there 2 or 3 days, and like Alan said, we rode through Rome on the night of the 4th and 5th, days of the 4th and 5th, and got to the side of Rome on the 6th of June. When all of a sudden we got the news, oh, big day, big buddy, D-Day in Normandy. That was just another day for us. We'd already been fighting since September. Anyway, I don't know to begrudge it because it was a big day. We went ahead in action along the west coast, the division did, in bunches, went on through towns such as Piabena, Civitavecchia, I forget that lake up there where Mussolini had his summer castle, where no boy from the Penn Company or one of the artists or somebody got fishing for the dynamite and got blown up. Didn't kill him, but he got blown out of the boat fishing fish. We fought up through there. We fought through several towns, and I believe it was on June the 26th, we were stopped about 20 miles south of Pisa. I could swear and tell everybody, but I couldn't do it for sure, that I could see the tower of Pisa leaning like that from where I was through my field glasses. So that's where we were in Italy. When we left Italy and went back to the rear of Naples, trained to get ready to go to the southern France beaches on August the 15th for our second invasion. And that's what we did in our outfit. I can tell you detailed day to day if you want to, but I'd be here for 2 weeks. These boys out here could tell you stories that I couldn't tell you. But to me, anyone that fought in the war, anywhere, were heroes to me, but the most ones were the ones that still laying over there, got killed, and are over there now. I want to say about a minute more. I got a letter from a unit, someone in New York wants to try to raise funds to make a documentary about the mining casino and the Rapido River. He said, you boys that fought there are not notable. It makes all these documentaries about Saving Private Ryan and all the D-Day Normandy stuff, everything you see. It said, you're not notified, not notarized in documentaries as you should be, although we have got a lot of documentaries, old war films. They want funds raised. But it said in this letter that it's rumored that the boys that was fighting in Italy are D-Day Dodgers because they did not want to make the invasion of Normandy. That made me mad. I don't know if y'all ever heard about this letter, but I got it at home. I wrote my representative about it. He said, yes, they just spread that word out so they try to raise money, which it may be true. But that made me mad. The boys that fought in North Africa, Sicily, and Italy were fighting down there so they wouldn't have to go to the invasion of Normandy. That's what I want to say. And I appreciate you coming up here, and I wish you all the best of luck going home. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Roy, for that personal story. It was very interesting. It always is to hear you all, and I'm always especially touched by the emotion that you men reflect, and all of us that have been to war do, for those that haven't come back. Many of you all have probably been aware of and or have your own copy of the book by Tom Brokaw called The Greatest Generation. Our third speaker is a subject of this book. Whatever page it is, Mary Louise Roberts Wilson has her own chapter. She is really a very, very special person to us for a variety of reasons. And if you will indulge me, gentlemen, for this lady, perhaps a little more extended introduction of her. And we're very proud of her specifically, but we're also very proud of the medical corps, medical service corps, the military physicians and nurses and other people involved with taking care of us when we got hurt and went to the military hospitals. More than 60,000 women served in the Army Nurse Corps in World War II. 60,000. 16 died as a result of enemy action. 67 nurses were taken prisoner of war, and I presume those were mostly Corregidor for the most part. More than 1,600 were decorated for bravery under fire or for meritorious service. One of them was Mary Louise Roberts, now Wilson, who was a long way from her Mississippi childhood the day German shells started ripping through the operating tent on the Anzio beachhead in Italy, where she was working to save young American lives. And I'm touched too, as you can tell. All of us that were in those hospitals have a great memory of those doctors and nurses that took care of us on the battlefield. She received the Silver Star in her action. It says here in the story that she keeps it in the bottom of the cedar chest, rather rarely bothering to take it out. She simply says at the end of the article here, in some ways I feel I accomplished a great deal. In other ways I feel I've done nothing. I really don't have anything to show for it. I'm just an ordinary person. And that's probably very reflective of all these people from World War II generation, this greatest generation that I tend to also call them. An ordinary person who as a teenager supported her family, became a highly skilled nurse, won the Silver Star, and lived an exemplary life. In her modesty, she typifies so many women of her generation. Part of her service to her country was coming back to this very facility. She's a retired nurse for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and she was here for 30 years, had a wonderful career here. Berlene Huff, our current nurse chief of service, went and picked her up and will take her back and escorted her. We're very, very proud of our third speaker because she's definitely and specifically one of us, Mary Wilson.
Thank you, Alan. That's pretty flattering when you hear it, isn't it? I want you to know that I am speaking from the nurse's viewpoint, not from the combat soldier. I was in a 56 evacuation hospital that was primarily made up of Baylor University medical doctors here in the Sicily Valley. Most of our doctors were Baylor doctors, but many of the nurses were not. And when we went to New York and when we got ready to go overseas, our TO was made up from different cadres. But we had 52 nurses and 50 doctors and 360 enlisted men. I must say that the Anzio beachhead experience was the most challenging experience of my 29 months overseas. First, the terrain was, particularly in the nurses section, was a lot of marshland where foxholes were not, we weren't able to dig foxholes there. And the next was
Be sure you get a little closer to the mic, please.
the next was the proximity to the enemy troops. Is that better?
Better back in the back. Okay, that's better.
We were so close that most of the time you could hear the chatter of their machine guns. Of course, the frequency of the air raids, which was both day and night, every day, was certainly a deterrent in helping us to function. And the operating room, the operating room was responsible for taking care of the patient. And we were required to have sterile instruments and supplies. But this gave us a real challenge because our sterilizer was placed outside the operating area and it was run by Army generators. And some of you gentlemen who are familiar with the Army generators, and you know what I'm talking about. Many times the laundry of our lap sheets that we use to drape the patients and the sponges that we use to absorb the blood were hanging in the workroom trying to get them dry. But fortunately, most of the time, barring very few times, we had sufficient supplies and sufficient personnel to do the job. And I might say they did a very good job. Our living conditions were add little to help us. There were 2 nurses to attend. And our showers were sparse because we were fearful that shower time and bombing time was coinciding. So most of the time, we took our baths in helmets. Now I can tell you this, you ain't had a bath till you get a helmet bath. This is the time that we would reflect on the difficulties of the day. It was hard to think of another day because of the pain and the suffering and even death that it would bring. So often we would just sit and ponder over the facts as we took our baths. My roommate and I shunned the air raid shelter. That is, until our CO gave the order, you go to the air raid shelter or be court-martialed. Most generally, my roommate and I crawled under our cot. I don't think that was very much protection. Excuse me. The first time we went to the air raid shelter, I had even had time to make my nest when the bombs began to fall. And when the raid was over and the all clear sign was given, when we went back to our tent, my roommate and I looked at our tent riddled, full of holes. Actually, it was almost demolished. But we usually went to our tent during the supper hour, for whatever time we had, to put water on our little stoves so that when we got ready to take our baths at night, we would have hot water. So one night when we put our hand in the water, our hand kept going down to within 1.5 inches of the bottom. A shrapnel had penetrated the tent. Our water bucket came out the other side. My roommate was a very inquisitive type of person. She wanted to know where it went. So in looking, we found that it had gone through her barracks bag that was situated at the top of her cot. Now, I think that's pretty scary. In the first 36 hours, we admitted 1,139 battle casualties. Now, this included a series of abdominal wounds, chest wounds, traumatic amputations, and such. And we quickly ran out of blood. But this was partially replaced by men from the 6th Corps headquarters and the CBs. On the night of February the 12th, we saw and experienced the heaviest raid of the port. Several bombs hit our unit. Second Lieutenant Ellen Ainsworth was fatally wounded. She was the first person in our unit to die. Now, this was particularly hard on the nursing staff. A proposal was made and was discussed to remove the nurses from the detail, but that was quickly rejected. On March 22nd, shells from their 88s went marching through 56, killing 7 of our personnel. Severely injured was one of our nurses, and they sent her to a base hospital. February the 10th, it was one of our very worst raids. 27 men were injured. The operating room was chaos. 3 badly injured patients were on the litters, but one patient had already been put on the operating table. We put those that were in the litters on the floor and put helmets on them for a measure of safety. We had to stay focused. Quitting was not an option with us. It was during this time that I received the Silver Star. Several weeks later, General Lucas came by, presented me with the star. We went out in the field, no fanfare, no ceremony, and in 20 minutes I was back at work. So I didn't even get a good break. We were relieved on the beachhead by the 38th Iraqi Hospital on Easter Sunday, 1944. And believe me, that was a day of resurrection for the 56th of Iraq. As we were waiting for the trucks to take us to the port, we could not help but relive our fearful days of stress on Anzio. Many faces were missing. Some were dead. Others were left behind to be cared for. We showed visible signs of our months of stress that we had endured. Many were thinner, hanging on their clothes hanging on like sacks. And I can say this, yes, Anzio was hell. But we were proud of our experience and of our record there. And there are several things that I learned from this experience, and the first one, I think, and the greatest, is endurance. We started out 52 nurses, and we ended up, we only lost one nurse, and that's Ainsworth. Then the importance of competent teamwork. It doesn't matter whether you're in the operating room or a soldier on the field. It has to be teamwork to get the matter done and to have success. And I will say this, there's nobody better than the American soldier when he's fighting to win. We certainly had a lot of heroes, and today I salute those who didn't make it back home. But I just want to say, thank God I live in America. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. You inspired me. I would like to say this week, Monday, we buried one of our guys that mobilized with us. Tuesday, we buried another. Rufus J. Cleghorn out of K Company was buried. He was all noted for being able to drill a regiment, give calisthenics without any type of amplification. And he could still do it before he died, Gordon. And Rufus was on Hill 1205. And they had run out of ammunition, and the Germans was everywhere. And the guy said, Captain Rufus, whatever they call him, we're out of ammunition. He said, shut up, hell, and throw rocks. Remember Rufus in your prayer for that. And then the other guy was Alvin Amalunky. He came back and became successful builder. He went back to one of the towns that he had liberated. They made him honorary mayor for a day and shut the town down in its entirety. Not only did we fight like hell, we governed those little towns even after the war. And we're still citizen soldiers, but we would go again if we had to.
Well, I want to thank Mary very much for her comments. I think the thing that sticks out the most with what she said was quitting was never an option. Quitting was never an option. In those hospitals, when they took care of us, and for us, we just never quit. We may not have achieved the objectives in Korea or Vietnam that we would have wanted to, like you all had a very significant, specific closure. But she spoke about the heroes. Well, we obviously have a heroine with us this day. We have time for probably 3 or 4 questions, and then I'd like to then close and have all of the participants from the 36 that are here come up and just say your name and your hometown, and then anyone that would like to come and greet them will be welcome to. And then I know, as they already alluded to, that there are a lot more stories, and any of you out there could have been on the panel. You know, there's just a limited amount of time, and we just kind of have to pick somebody, and we hope no one's feelings are hurt. But I'd like to open it up to questions from the audience at this point, and I'll get the mic out to you. Any questions? Get that mic to them. Raise your hand, please, so John can get the mic to you, or come up to the mic. Okay, while someone's thinking about it, let me ask you all, how long were you on the Salerno beachhead? How many days, weeks, whatever? Use the mic. Salerno beachhead. How long were you at the Salerno beachhead, on the beachhead at Salerno, before you broke out?
I imagine since I was at the reserve for the division, we don't know for sure. We were up in action, our 1st battalion. The 3rd day we landed on the 9th. We went up to Anzio, to Amalfi, north of there, about 70 miles, to help the Rangers and the British on the 12th. So we didn't see any action on the beach itself, our battalion. So we went on up and fought through with the British and stuff, in through Naples until October the 4th. So that Naples is still on the beach, I guess, in some way it's still on the beaches. But the division itself, I think, fought through Altavella, through the lower, through the those Color and Sicily River, where we lost it into the 2nd Battalion, 142nd, 3rd. Colonel Jones, his battalion, captured. My twin brothers captured Altavella, a bunch of 3rd Battalion. I think they pushed through Altavella back to the north and northwest until about the 1st of October, then they got relieved.
So basically, you all really didn't face nearly as much opposition on the beaches as as you all did at Anzio. Obviously, you were stuck on the beaches at Anzio much longer than Salerno.
Well, we were on the beaches. We were, of course, you know, the Italians surrendered 2 days before we landed. There wasn't any Italians there, but the Germans had moved in with their Panzer outfits, and they were looking down our throats as we landed from the hills around Altavella and another Persano or somewhere down below there, and they kept us off the beaches. But we, at one time, it was rumored that General Clark would get ready to let us retreat, get back on boats, but no way.
Okay. But how long were you then, let's say, Mary, how long was your field hospital set up on the beach at Anzio? 3 months?
This is at Anzio now.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I wanted to compare, I wanted to contrast the time between Salerno was a short period of time to Anzio. You were stuck down there a long time.
We landed on D5, January the 25th, I think.
Yeah.
We were relieved on Easter Sunday, but the 38th Battalion took our place, and I think it was May or June before they left.
But the point is that you all could not get off that beachhead for a long time. So this was, heavy bombardment. I just wanted to make sure people in the audience that weren't with the 36 understood how long they were stuck on that beach and what a harassing, stressful type of a situation that was for the troops and obviously for the medical personnel. Any other questions?
We were up there 76 days.
76 days. She knows exactly. Okay, Deborah.
Yes, I'd like to know from the nurse, you talked about the one nurse that you lost. Was it a lot of post-traumatic stress related to what the nurses experienced while they were there the 76 days or after the 76 days, and how was that handled?
The question, Mary, relates to, was there a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder, shell shock, combat fatigue, as we termed it different ways, within your group of nurses or your unit, either during the time you were there or afterwards?
The time we were there, everybody was intact.
Yeah, everybody was intact is the answer, so there really wasn't any visible
No.
demonstration of those.
I had one corpsman who came to me one day and said, Lieutenant Roberts, I am going to turn into psycho ward. I've had all I could take. I said, Sergeant, see what? You're not going anywhere. You go back and get your work done. When I leave, I'll let you go, and we can go together.
Pretty way to solve that problem. Good leadership. Yes, sir. Would you go up to the mic, please?
I would like to know what the fighting man's opinion was of the job that General Clark was doing on this campaign.
The question is, we'd like to hear a fighting man's rendition of what you thought about General Clark, and I know that's a real tough question to answer.
I really don't know how to criticize a fellow that's gone. He's a well-noted fellow. I can only know what happened. When the 36th Division came home from overseas, they had a Senate hearing and legislation hearing in Washington about the detailed thing that went on at the Rapido River. He ordered the 36th plus, I believe, some of the 45th or 34th to cross the river, January the 24th, I'm not sure. I was in the hospital. He ordered, and our General Walker, who commanded our division, said it's impossible. The river was going about 20 miles an hour, about 10 or 12 foot deep because they'd opened up a bunch of dams up above there. And the Germans had cleared off all the shrubbery, trees, and everything across the river, where they fired from the little town at San Angelo, Casino, and had effilade fire. It was impossible unless you protected the place with 3 to 4 times as many troops that the Germans had. We had about equal amount of troops, I understand. I wasn't there. But with this hearing that came out, because we went over the division went over one night, couldn't make it. Lost all the bolts, rubber, and the foot bridges and everything. Clark ordered them over again. They tried it again. It didn't go. I've known some men in the division and some of my company. Said they went over the third time only to get the wounded and dead out. But anyway, they had this hearing, and they cleared Clark's name. Of course, he was a noted fellow. He came back and ran the Citadel, I think in North Virginia or someplace over the Citadel, North Carolina. And actually, I know when back in the 80s or early 80s, they was wanting him before he died, I think, come and speak to our reunion one year, and the whole bunch got together. I said, no way, we're not going to let General Clark speak at our reunion. So you could go inflection from that as to how the people thought, especially that was at the Rapido. I have nothing against it, but I was not there. All I know is what I hear. A bunch of boys out here, my company and other companies from the 36 that made that Rapido thing, they can tell you more about what happened there than I can. But that's from my understanding what the troops from the 36th Division at that time think of what happened.
I'd like to, Richard, come up here a couple of feet, will you? So everybody can see you. I'd like Richard to give you a personal anecdote about something that I heard several years ago and always will stick with me. And Richard is also a recipient of the Silver Star, the third highest decoration for gallantry in action. And I would like him to tell you the conditions under which he received his Silver Star award. You heard what Mary said about her. She went back to work in 20 minutes, and apparently Richard was working at the time.
Yeah, I was working in traction. I was in traction. I'd been in traction for several months, and There was a colonel that came in there about 2 or 3 times a week, and he'd ask us for anything we needed, and we'd say, hell no. But we had 3 British boys in there, and they despised we, especially we Texans. And he said, well, ask him to do something. He wouldn't do anything for us. So next time he came in there, it was raining cats and dogs. And we were in a tent with dirt floor, and he had to crawl through the flap. And he stopped on the side of my bed and wanted to know if we wanted anything. And I said, yes, I'd like to have a glass of water. So it's raining everything outside. He goes out and gets me a glass of water. Anything else? I said, yes, sir. I'm still thirsty. And so on the 4th glass of water, he just set it down and walked out. A few days later, he came in there and he said, where is that soldier that drinks down with water? And he walked over to my bed and started reading the citation of Silver Star. And he didn't know what position I was in. I was in traction with my right arm, left leg. And so I was lying pretty still from the bed. He looked down at me and he got through it. He said, you're coming, Commander. The way you lie in bed with attention, you must have been a good soldier and he's very proud of you. Well, Saturday, a little over 8 and a half paper came out with all that happened in the hospital. It says, Corporal Richard W. Reno received a Silver Star. Welcome to bed to him. He came in there that afternoon and he stuck a thing out of my nose. He says, is that true? And I read it. I said, yes, sir. He says, you know, I bet your company commander was damn glad when you got hurt.
One of our patients told the doctor, please get me ready to leave as soon as possible. I'm a lot safer at the front than I am at this place.
We're at a little past the 50-minute mark, and our employees definitely are past the time that they typically are allowed to take lunch and so forth. So we will close, and I would like to just say a couple things before our people come up and from the division, our guests today, and any other World War II vets, and just stand up here, and anyone that'd like to come up and say hello to them. I would close with something that relates to the story of these men on the battlefield and what Mary Louise represents from service in the war, specifically in here, is that we at the Department of Veterans Affairs and our Veterans Health Administration are a direct extension for the people of America who have served their country in time of peace and war of their service. It is a continuum of service for us as the United States of America healthcare system to be able to take care of these people that got sick in the military, wounded in the military, hurt in the military, whatever's happened to them since then. We are all very proud. We continue in the proud tradition that the people such as Mary Wilson represented as far as their service to their country. We feel very proud of what we do today in this specific facility, and we invite any of you who do not use our healthcare system to use us. Try us out. We're a lot better than we were in 1946, which may be the last time some of you all ever tried us out, as I've heard from time to time, but we are a lot better than we were then. We do appreciate so much people being here today, all the guests that we have. We are very, very proud of the Department of Veterans Affairs and those of us that have come after you all and served in your war. We are very proud of you all as members of the greatest generation of America. We thank you. Richard, would you come right up here, okay, and face that way? And anyone else that's 36th Infantry or guest or World War II, please come on up. I want you to say your name. I want you to line up here in a receiving line, please, okay? Okay, come on up here. Come on up, Payne. Get up here, man. Come on, Payne, right up here. Everybody, come on, don't be bashful. Come on up here. All right, your name, sir. Stand right here. Start right here. Okay, pay attention, gentlemen. Follow orders. I want you to start right here next to Richard. Come down this way. All right, you first, sir, right here. Okay, y'all come up on this side. Your name, sir.
Gordon Rose. Wimbledon.
Okay, sir.
Presley Floyd from Temple, Texas, Company D, 143rd Infantry.
I'm Glenn Hayes and I'm from Dallas. Gene Jameson from Dallas, Company D.
Wayne Rucker from Dallas, Company D, Lieutenant. Leroy Houston from Temple, Company D, 143rd.
Sir, face the audience.
Ed Miller, Service Company, 142nd.
Okay. Are there any other World War II vets in the audience? Come on up here. I want every World War II veteran in the audience to come up here. Would you, Mary, come on up here if we need a chair for you. Mary, pull your chair up and sit right up here. Mary, come on up front here. And Garland and Roy, would you all come down the end of the line here? Okay, World War II vets, other World War II veterans. Come on up and say your name and where you're from, sir.
Russell Horn, Dallas.
Okay, yourself right here, sir. Okay,
And Steve Corrali, Rock Springs.
okay,
W.D. Henderson from DeSoto.
okay.
Dick Grissom from Dallas.
Cecil Gilliam from Dallas. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, these are our special guests today. We thank all of you for attending. Tell your friends and relatives about this program that we'll have again in mid-December on the Battle of the Bulge. We thank you all very much for attending. We're proud to have you here and welcome to the Department of Veterans Affairs.